What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Ben Ballion, back with another episode of the Sports Pod. And today, we're going to get into the Mets and are they a team of destiny? Obviously, this season has been crazy. Starting off, a new regime coming in. Didn't expect too much of this year other than hover around 500, maybe sneak into a third wildcard spot. They were around that in May, and then they were around that in April, and then everything fell off in May. And then in June, Grimace threw out the first pitch, and the whole season was turned around. Jose Iglesias, Candelita. Oh my God, it's starting to feel like all these gimmicks are turning into sort of a team of destiny vibe for the Mets this year. I'll get into all of it on the other side of the intro. Hit it.
That ball is out of here! Out of here!
All right, getting into the episode about how the Mets could potentially be a team of destiny. And now, when I say this, I don't mean it as like the Mets are definitely going to win the World Series. It's meant to be stuff like that. I think it's more of just the Mets can be a surprise playoff threat that teams didn't see coming at the start of the year. So I want to start this with a quote from Steve Cohen from early in the year. This was, I think it was back in April or May. He said, "All in the future, not much we can do until the trade deadline." That was replying to someone's tweet talking about how how this is one of the worst Mets teams of all time, and it wasn't a good team at all. And Steve Cohen knew that, and he knew it wasn't a good team, and the plan was probably to sell at that point. So he was like, "Yeah, I get it, but we can't really do anything until July 31st or July 30th." And he was right, but that's not something you could really say to the public as an owner of a team. Like, he's also the best owner. I think he's still learning what he can and can't say. He's also like a super fan of the team. So that has a part to do with it. It plays a role in it. But you just can't say that at all. That's very bad. And I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but it was just something like the whole mindset changed after that tweet was sent. And like, yeah, there wasn't much they could do till July 31st. At that time, it was to sell, but now it was to be conservative buyers, which I think David Stearns did very well. That's a perfect segue into what I want to talk about next. The Mets trade deadline acquisitions. Earlier in the deadline time period, you got Phil Maton from the Rays, who's been solid for us. He can't really pitch on back-to-back days, which is fine, but he's been good. He hasn't pitched much at all. I think he's made like 5 or 6 outings in almost a month since being in New York, but that's whatever. He's been good. And then they picked up Reen Stanek from the Mariners, and in his lone appearance as a Met, it did not go according to plan against the Braves. Not productive. Didn't get out. I don't even know if he got out of the inning he was in, but that's whatever. I don't know. I think he's a guy who's pitched in those high leverage situations before, and he knows how to deal with the big moments. And he'll be able to pitch in October. And if not, he'll be more of a mentor. And then the other two bullpen acquisitions, one was optioned to AAA. Wasker Brazaban. I did as soon as the Mets trade for him happened, I was live. I didn't know really who he was. Check me out on live streams. I do it on YouTube, Instagram, or Twitch. You could watch it on. Um, but yeah, when we got Brazaban, I didn't really know who he was. He came for the Marlins. The Marlins got a huge load of prospects, by the way. But looking more into him, he looks like a really good player, and it might be a steal. We gave up our 22nd ranked prospect, Wilfredo, uh, who was in who's on the Brooklyn Cyclones. So we're not losing too much for somebody who seems like he's gonna be able to um, really produce and make an impact on this team down the stretch because we needed a bullpen arm, and he seems like a perfect fit for this team. From what I was seeing and what I saw out of his outing today, he might be Danielle Nunez while Danielle Nunez is on the IL. He might fill that role. Tyler McGill is also in the bullpen now due to Paul Blackburn acquiring Paul Blackburn, a starter who's had an injury plagued career. So we'll see how much longer McGill has to stay in the bullpen. But Mendoza was talking about it today, and he said McGill might be able to throw 100 coming out of the pen just because there's less pitches and everything. You put more focus on each pitch and you put more energy into each pitch. We've already seen this year. It's benefited Jose Buto going to the bullpen. Hopefully, there's a similar effect on Tyler McGill because he wasn't great as a starter, but that's whatever. And then I mean, looking at like Paul Blackburn's stats and stuff, he's basically Tyler McGill. He's got almost the same numbers. He's 5-4. I think like a low 4 ERA. I don't know, just another body. I think it's good. I think he'll be better than Tyler McGill if he could stay healthy. But just another depth starter, which was something I think we really needed after Christian Scott went down first, and then Kodai Senga went down after that. So yeah, I think David Stearns had a really good deadline. If I had to put a letter grade on it, I'd probably say a B, just because we didn't get a lefty out of the bullpen. But these guys do have a really good chance to be like very impactful players. Oh, I didn't mention Jesse Winker. He's another guy, a lefty bat from the Nationals. He plays the outfield and he can DH. That versatility is going to be big, um, in my eyes, because you could give Bren Nimmo a day off. You can give Marte when he comes back in right field a day off. Tyrone Taylor, it doesn't matter. He can play the outfield. But then if JD Martinez needs a day off, he can also get the day off, which is huge. Like that versatility of being able to DH but also play the field is something the Mets need. I don't know if he was starting today. I don't remember, but he got a hit in his first start as a Met, and he's like he's a better version of Michael Conforto, basically. Lefty, plays the outfield. It was either like him or Conforto or Mark Canha were the names I saw that the Mets were looking at. So, nah, Jesse Winker didn't start today, which is okay. I don't think he's gonna play every day, but he'll be very valuable off the bench. Tyrone Taylor's also been on a tear, which has been good. Started against the Yankees, and then it's just continued. I mean, when Bader went down for whatever it was, I think it was 5 games in a row, that Tyrone Taylor impact was big time. Because Bader's been really good out of the 9 spot, and Tyrone Taylor matched his impact, if not did more to it. Happy Jeff McNeil. I mean, Jose Iglesias took his job in the first half of the season, but Jeff McNeil, again, with the versatility, he could play the outfield, he could play the infield. And same with Iglesias, he could play second or third base if Vientos needs a day off. Like the Mets have very versatile players. It's now on Mendoza to put those pieces together, and he has done a very good job of that so far. I had it. Oh, here. So earlier in May, it's like 6 weeks into the season, the Mets were terrible, right? And then Jorge Lopez happened. Obviously, all that stuff happened. I was on here. I was on the sports pod, and I said this season was over. I said it on record, and that's that. It's happened. This season is not over. I am publicly taking that back. The Mets have a ton of life left in this season. They're, I think, second or third wild card today. I didn't check after the loss. to the Twins, taking 2 out of 3 of them. We won every single series in July. You love to see it. Um, but the Mets, yeah, now we're 4th in the wild card. We gotta pray for we're tied for the 3rd. We gotta pray for an Arizona loss and a San Diego loss tonight. And Atlanta, even with their injuries, they're still top of the league. But this season is not over. We were ahead of the Braves, and then I don't know what happened. It's not on Salicata, Mets fans. It's not his fault. He's not playing on the field. The Mets had 2 days where their offense wasn't playing well. That happens. It's baseball. It's a game of failures. Um, but yeah, this season is far from over. We can honestly win the division. The Mets have, I think, 8 or 9 games against the Phillies in September. If we get within, like, 4 or 5 games before that takes place, if we get into striking distance, we can definitely win this division. And then you got September call-ups. We'll see who the Mets bring up. I hope we bring up I don't even know who's in I mean, they'll probably bring Beatty up just because he can play the infield. He plays pretty solid defense, but he can't hit. That's his problem. He's a quadruple A superstar. And we'll see we'll see what happens. I mean, September call-ups are gonna help the Yankees more than the Mets with Jason Dominguez and then potentially Spencer Jones on the horizon also. I saw today Jet Williams is almost back from his wrist injury. That's gonna be he won't come up this year, but, like, next year and building for the future, he's gonna be an integral part of that. So he'll when he comes back from that, that'll be big just to keep him developing, eat up all those at bats that he needs in the minors, and then when he gets up here, he'll be ready to go. And we're gonna need an outfielder because Starling Marte, I hate to say it, but he's pretty washed. He's just if Father Time is catching up to him, it happens to everybody. I would love for him to come back on this playoff run and just start hitting bombs. Like, we don't need the speed. His defense was never incredible. If he can just continue to rake what he was doing before he went down, I would be that would be huge. That would be really big for us. And then I mean, just like the pitching staff needs to continue what they're doing. Luis Severino laid an egg today. He went 3 innings. I think he gave up 6 runs. It wasn't his day, and that kind of worries me because this is the most innings he's pitched in a long time in a season, and if he's starting to get tired, that's not good because we need him for this playoff run. He is gonna be, if not the guy starting game 1, he'll be starting game 2, and Sean Manaea will be starting game 1. Manaea's been awesome, and a huge David Stearns pickup, just a brilliance. And talking about David Stearns for a little bit, he is a mastermind, and I am trusting whatever he does. Similar to how I trust Leon Rose with the Knicks, no matter what moves he makes, I'm getting to that point already with David Stearns. What he did at this trade deadline showed me so much that he understands the spot this team is in, that he wasn't willing to give up top guys and go all in this year, that he's building to win. He's building a perennial winner. That is better than going all in this year and potentially failing. I would rather be in the playoffs for 7 of the next 10 years than be in it this year and suck for the next 10 years. And that's something Billy Epler wouldn't have done. He would have tried to go all in. Well, if there was a time to go all in, it would have been 2022. But other GMs would have gone in on this team and they would have added major major players. But David Stearns said that that's not what we need. That's not what we needed, and he added pretty much everything there was. He said that teams called in multiple times on each of their top prospects: Gilbert, Jet Williams, Mauricio, probably Beatty, and so that's a good sign that he knows what to do, and he's doing it the right way. Now transitioning over to the Bronx, their general manager and Brian Cashman did not go all in a season where he definitely should have. The Yankees with a win today ended up got back to 20 games over 500. They're in Juan Soto's walk year, and they didn't go all in. They're second in their division by a half game. The Orioles are bailing them out by losing. If the Orioles were winning at the rate they were earlier this year, the Yankees would be 8 or 9 games back right now. And that's a fact. They had a chance to gain some serious ground on the Bronx Bombers, and they didn't. They failed. That's a failed opportunity, and that is purely on the Orioles. They needed to win some of those games, without a doubt. And the Orioles went they added a lot at the deadline. They added Trevor Rogers from the Marlins. They and some other guys. They parted ways with some of their top prospects in a loaded farm system. The Yankees, they added Mark Leiter Jr. and Yos De Los Santos and Brett Phillips on a minor league deal, and Jazz Chisholm, who's been awesome for them, I have to admit. But they could have done so much more. They could have really used a lefty reliever and a closer. Tanner Scott is literally fits that bill, a left-handed closer. That now would have been the time to part ways with Spencer Jones or Jason Dominguez. It's too much of the prospect hugging with the Yankees. It was always the baby bombers, Gary Sanchez, Gleyber Torres, Aaron Hicks. These guys that came up and they didn't produce. And Glaber's the only one left on that roster, and he's gonna be gone after this year. Mark my words. The Yankees should not have prospect hugged this deadline. If there was 1 year for them to go in and let go of some of their prospects, it was this year. They still need to impress Soto. They still need to show him that they're a superior organization in the MLB. But they didn't. Soto might want to go back to the Padres. Look at what they did. They added a couple starters in Tanner Scott. He might want to come to the Mets, improved on the margins and didn't go all in because they weren't in a situation to go all in. Soto wants to go to a team that's going to win, and an executive like the GM has a big role in doing that, assembling the team that's going to go out and win. The locker room chemistry, all of that stuff means something, and Brian Cashman needs to be at the forefront of it. And he just wasn't. He didn't do enough. He didn't. DJ could have been gone. Glaber could have been gone. And no, those are really the two names I look at because Jazz Chisholm has looked really nice at third. And he does play second base as well. His versatility is really good for them as well. Because if Glaber isn't producing down the stretch, he's out. If DJ isn't producing, he's out. DJ with 5 ribbies, though, today. If Judge needs to DH for a little bit, he could go play center. If Verdugo's not producing, he could go play left. He could go play right if Soto needs to DH for a little bit or he's out for a while. But that move is huge. He's hit 4 or 5 home runs in 6 games. So Jazz Chisholm, the Jazz Club is coming to New York. They didn't do enough at the deadline, but he's been really good for them. People are starting to compare that to the Josh Hart and OG Anunoby trades, which I don't know if we'll go there yet, but it was definitely big for them. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. David Stearns, I absolutely love what he did at the deadline. Not giving up not giving up really any of our top prospects. Moving our 22nd was the highest to Miami for Oscar Brazaban, who looks amazing. Added a left-handed outfielder power bat in Jesse Winker, who can also DH. And other bullpen arms like Reen Stanek or Phil Maton. So I like what he did. But then on the other side of town, and Brian Cashman, I do not like what he did. This should have been an all-in year for the Yankees, but they didn't go all in. This needed to be the time to let go of some of those prospects, to stop prospect huggings, but that didn't happen, and that's the fact. All right, hope you enjoyed. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on all my socials, linked down below. And for Ben Ballion, I'll talk to you next time on the Sports Pod.